Opening in Greek from Nicosia, the speaker praises Cyprus as a pillar of stability and safety in a turbulent region and welcomes partners and colleagues to these talks.
Good morning. You will allow me to make a short statement in Greek first, since we are in Nicosia. Να πω ότι είναι ιδιαίτερη χαρά για μένα που βρίσκομαι στην Κύπρο, μια χώρα που αποτελεί σημείο αναφοράς για τη σταθερότητα και την ασφάλεια στην Ανατολική Μεσόγειο. Μια χώρα η οποία απέδειξε ότι μπορεί να μετατρέπει τις κρίσεις σε ευκαιρίες και διαρκώς να αναβαθμίζει τον οικονομικό και τον γεωπολιτικό της ρόλο. Η ασφάλεια και η σταθερότητα της Κύπρου είναι υπόθεση ολόκληρης της Ευρώπης. Thank you very much. I'm looking forward to receiving your questions. First of all, let me say that Europe has already started addressing the crisis. Today, actually, at the Eurogroup, we will discuss the updated economic forecasts of the European Commission. There are no significant surprises there. The growth projections are updated downwards, and the inflation projections are updated upwards. But still, we're in a positive growth perimeter. There is a stagflationary pressure, but Europe is resilient. And what the Commission has already advanced is a perimeter of measures, given the 2022 experience, which are temporary, targeted, and tailored. We have seen what is happening in the bond markets and the instability that exists in the bond markets, and we're trying to balance that. On the one hand, we need to support our citizens, our societies, the most vulnerable, and on the other hand, we shouldn't allow this energy crisis to metastasize into a fiscal crisis. What we need to be is surgical. And we have an acute understanding that should the Strait, as you suggest, does not open soon, June will be worse than May, July will be worse than June. This is exactly why we will be having those discussions, and we will be coordinating as finance ministers between us. We're closely monitoring the situation.
So far, no need to introduce more flexibility.
Measures are already implemented at the national level, given the fiscal capabilities of every member state. As you very well know, the fiscal situation is worse than 2022. We're in a more dire, let's say, fiscal equation than what we used to be, but we have a better experience than 2022. What the IMF recently presented is that the measures that we implemented in our energy policies since 2022 have enabled us to have 12% less of an impact, given what has happened in the Middle East overall in our economies. So what we need to do on top of the measures that the Commission suggests.
Finance ministers warn Europe's growth is weakening and inflation rising, urging temporary, targeted, tailored measures and caution if the strait remains closed.
The triple T perimeter, temporary, targeted, and tailored, are measures that fit our long-run energy policy aspirations. Let me also add that today we're going to be discussing two more things. The first one is housing. Housing is not a core competence of the European Commission. The competence is typically national, regional, and local. However, I feel that the finance ministers of Europe cannot afford not to discuss the issues that constitute the core interest of European citizens. And housing is a social cohesion issue. Housing is an economic issue as well. And we need to at least coordinate policies between us. We need to at least learn from one another what worked and what didn't work. And this is what we plan to start doing in our meeting today. The final topic that we will be discussing in today's quite dense meeting here in Nicosia is the digital euro. We have invited Aurora Laluc, the head of the Econ Committee of the European Parliament, to discuss the parliamentary timetable for the adoption of the digital euro, given the 2029 timeframe that the ECB has advanced. For us, the digital Europe is an issue of financial sovereignty, and it's an issue which is, I would say, constitutional in augmenting the international role of the euro. And this is why all of those topics are being put simultaneously at today's agenda. I would say that there is a stagflationary tendency, but we are not in stagflation at this point. As the updated forecast, the updated economic forecast of the European Commission published yesterday also suggests we're in positive growth. The key word for Europe is resilience. Let's build on top of this. Thank you very much.
Morning. Very good to be here in Cyprus, especially after the last time where we had to postpone the informal in February, March. So it's good that we are here, especially after the security threats that Cyprus touched. I think it's good that we are here today to show, of course, our solidarity to Cyprus, but also especially to show our unity. A lot of interesting topics on the agenda, also on housing, but also, of course, on the economic situation. It's also good, of course, that we have the deal with the US. It's not a perfect deal, but I think it's good that that there as well we show that we want to move forward, and that not only it gives us predictability and stability, but also in case that there is a unilateral change.
Analysis shows energy steps have cushioned the blow, and ministers will now turn to housing, largely a national matter, but a pressing concern for citizens across Europe today.
The agreement that we can also know what we're going to do. So looking forward to the discussions that we will have here. Thank you.
Continues to be closed and the conflict goes on. What can be done?
Sorry, can you repeat?
If the Strait of Hormuz stays to be closed and if the conflict goes on and on, what can you do to save its economy?
Well, I think that is especially the reason why, of course, we are here together. There is, of course, not only the security situation, also the geopolitical impact that it has on our economy, but also on our own economies. We have, of course, already last time had an important discussion on the energy support that we would have, but of course we will need to look and of course check as well the impact that it has on our inflation and our economy and our economic growth in general. Well, I think that's currently not the best option. I know that some countries are proposing that, but I think that, for example, opening a national escape clause or a general escape clause to this kind of measures is difficult because, of course, this is not this is actually a supply crisis rather than a demand one. So I think that we need to avoid to put too much fiscal space open for actually doing that. We also already discussed it last time, that if we take measures, they need to be temporary, they need to be targeted, and I think that is extremely important. So opening fiscal space, for example, via the national escape clause will be extremely difficult because that will also open a lot of other political questions.
On the housing topic, what options are on the table to tackle it?
Well, what I found out is that, of course, the competency of the housing is a national one. For example, also in my country, it's a regional competency. So it's of course very difficult to have at the European level measures that we can take, but it is something that we need to discuss, because I feel that a lot of people, the middle class, is actually worrying about that their children or grandchildren will actually be able to buy a house. So it's important that today, here in the first discussion that we will have on this